time for the second of two NASCAR Nationwide Series practices here at the Texas Motor Speedway. They qualify later this afternoon. Steve Burns, Jeff Hammond, Larry McReynolds, Bob Dillner, Wendy Venturini with you. You see the wind whipping, but the weather here could not be nicer. Temperature expected to be 80 degrees today. Not a chance of rain all weekend, in fact. David Reagan was fastest in the first practice here.
Steve, one thing I've noticed right here as you look down pit road, practice is open. This track's green, ready to go, but a lot of guys, they're not what you call it in a hurry to get out there. Just wonder, Larry, if they feel like they've got this thing figured out, or they're just kind of like, I want somebody else to try this racetrack out since it's late here for a little while.
You know, it's actually a lot of practice. It's one of those deals, and I know Jeff will relate to this. If you have a lot of practice, you get to the point where I'm not sure we want this much practice. And if they shorten it, you go, gosh, I wish we had more.
We don't have enough.
And I think this is one of those deals, you know, about 2.5 hours of practice with just a small break in between the two. And I think the thing that we heard and saw a lot in the first practice, this race requires a lots of set of tires to run it, 200 laps, 300 miles, and I just don't think they want to just burn a lot of sets of tires up in these practice sessions.
Right now it's 71 degrees. Weather forecast could not be better this weekend here at the Great American Speedway, the Texas Motor Speedway.
Larry, where's the dew point?
I don't know.
But Chad Knaus knows. Hey, speaking of Chad Knaus, when's NASCAR Performance? Huh?
He don't know where that is on his notes.
Get back with you on that. Actually, 7 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday night, and then encore at 11 a.m. Eastern time Sunday morning.
Got the DVR set for both.
You know what's so funny? He had to get that from the producer. Had to get in his ear and tell him.
Well, what Larry Mack really needs to know is what time he's doing the show.
And I do know that.
I know you
Actually,
do.
We're going to be taping it right after trackside. We're going to be talking about shock absorbers. Not Ackerman, shock absorbers.
Kingpin angle?
That's if we have parts and pieces to do it with, we will.
That is shocking. You must be talking about T.P. Barker and him being prepared.
His famous words, he's supposed to be getting us parts and pieces.
Kevin Harvick, 4 wins here at Texas Motor Speedway. He's in that 33 car. It may be tougher to be a Nationwide Series crew chief in some respects than a Sprint Cup Series crew chief, because again, we've talked about the tire rule and how they limit the sets of tires as a cost-cutting measure. It's got to be a little difficult, Larry, as you said, with 2 1-hour and 15-minute practices. You
have to manage your tires in practice, and just remember, you have to manage your tires in the race. You can't just come to pit road every time the yellow flag waves and get 4 more Goodyear race tires.
No, you're right about that. I mean, that's one of the things that everybody has to learn to adjust on. And, you know, Steve, you may be exactly right. It does challenge you in such a different way. As we take a look at here, Mike Bliss in the 11 car, and Mike currently is the fastest guy in this second practice at a 29.75.
And I think the amazing thing, Mike comes in here 8th in the points, and of course he lost the rides with James Finch in the 1 car after Iowa back in the summer, so he is sitting 8th in the points, driving 5 different cars, but he is on the brink of winning a race in this 11 car. I think he and crew chief Paul Wolf, the 3 races together, they have finished second, and 4th.
Let's go back to what you said just a second ago. 5 different cars.
And there was a point where Mike wasn't even sure he was going to be able to find a ride. Joe Nemechek helped him out a little bit with the 87 car, and he's going to drive this car here in Phoenix next week. And as I mentioned in the first practice show, believe it or not, he'll be back in the 1 car at Homestead.
Steve, I want to go back to what you were talking about as far as getting acclimated. One thing I want to point out is, you know, that they made a change, you know, with crew chiefs on the 18 car. Moving Dave Rogers up. He's trying to adjust right now on running a Sprint Cup deal and getting differentiated from being a basically
It still has a little bit of that feeling. And then off 2, it's neutral. Into 3, right in the center, it wants to get tight. But then you pull the wheel and get on the gas, and it comes back to you.
Sounds like he's got a lot of things going on in the corner with that 11 car.
But it doesn't seem like it's that bad. He said at least when he gets back in the gas and he pulls it, it comes to you. Maybe he's trying to get a little bit of that out of it, but overall it seems like it's pretty solid for Mike Bliss. And again, at least it's not doing dee-dah-does and do-si-dos, you might say, around this racetrack, which is very easy to do with the weather and the track conditions.
Well, I think most of these drivers know with this particular car, the history of this place says the more rubber down on it, the more it heats up, the more the car is going to push. The front wheels are not going to want to respond to the steering wheel.
This is the 18th NASCAR Nationwide Series race here in Texas. Mark Martin, the very first winner back in April of 1997. Stay with us here on Speed. Sunday NASCAR race day thunders into Texas, where Jamie McMurray will join us live to discuss his thrilling win at Talladega. And Wendy sits down with four-time champ Jeff Gordon. NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot, live Sunday, 12:30 Eastern.
Now, I stand corrected. I certainly don't want to shortcut Mike Bliss, but after finishing second at Lowe's and fourth at Memphis, he has now moved to sixth in the driver points with 3 races to go. You know, Steve, one thing we and Jeff, we want to make sure that we get put out there during these practice sessions, maybe several times a day. Our good buddy Jim Hunter, NASCAR's Vice President of Communication, a little under the weather, was put in a hospital down in Birmingham, Alabama last week. So certainly, Jim, all of our well wishes from Speed goes out to you for a quick, speedy recovery.
Jim's been a fixture in this sport for a long time.
Yeah, I'll echo that all the way back when he was running and taking care of Darlington.
He was a sports writer back in the day.
He's done it all as far as NASCAR is concerned. But I remember him and Russell Branham working down to that deal in Darlington. That right there was a pair. Never play golf with either one of them, you know, separately, but much less together. You'll never beat him.
Russell Branham will cheat like the Dickens.
He doesn't cheat. It's the pencil that wants to do it. The pencil does it. You don't believe me? Ask him.
Larry, I think you mentioned Jason Leffler. 19 top 10 finishes this season. That's the most he's ever accumulated in a given Nationwide Series season.
Right now he is 8th quickest. He's run a total of 8 laps. We've only had 16 cars of our 46 that are here for taking this practice session so far.
But Larry, watching the scoring monitor right now, we see more guys running 5 laps at a time. Jason being one of them. He's 4th quick right now, following the 16 car Matt Kenseth, the 11 of Mike Bliss, and the 6 of David Reagan, who is currently the fastest on a 5 lap average. Looks to me like he may be running like 10 or 12 laps.
Let's go back to Wendy.
And in between the first practice session and the beginning of this one, we ended, of course, knowing that the 38 team was going to have to change the drive shaft on Jason Leffler's car. He had an extreme vibration that picked up towards the end of practice. They did check the motor mounts, change the drive shaft, rebalance the tires. I just checked in with the team and also listening to Jason Leffler live in this practice session. No word of a vibration from Jason just yet. They've run about 9 laps in this practice, and I guess no news is good news from the driver. We'll keep you posted if it has that vibration still from the first practice. Let's head over to Bob.
Well, Wendy, no laps in this practice session for Joey Logano. In fact, I spoke to him just a short time ago, and I said, hey, man, why can't you just drive it? He says, you can't drive this car. Completely unstable. He's climbing into the 20 machine right now. They were very unhappy throughout the practice, but definitely at the end. You see Doug Hewitt right there talking to Joey Logano about the changes that were just made on this car. Now, the car is actually still up on scale pads. When I walked over here just before the practice session, I said, okay, what have you done to fix the car, guys? Because Joey didn't like it. He said, we haven't done anything. They're still up in the rig trying to figure out what to do to this race car. Well, what they have done is a pair of new front shocks and a different left rear spring. Joey Logano hoping it's much better than it was in the first practice session.
And that Doug Hewitt, Doug has been around for a long, long time. In fact, when Michael Walter first came on the scene back in the Sprint Cup Series driving the Bahari number 30 car, Doug Hewitt was his crew chief.
Substituting in there right now for Dave Rogers. Again, we talked about him moving up. We'll take a look here at David Reagan in the 6 car.
You know, we actually have 3 of the Roush Fenway cars up in the top 7. And I think both days, both races, Nationwide and Sprint Cup, you'll see the Roush Fenway cars pretty good because of all 3 series, even including the Camping World Truck Series, Roush Fenway, 12 wins total in those 3 series here at Texas.
Want to mention, Larry mentioned the Camping World Truck Series. Matt Crafton on the pole for tonight's race that you'll see here on Speed. Todd Bodine alongside. Second rows, Chad McCumbee and Ron Hornaday. Kyle Busch doing the triple here this weekend will start 12th.
It should be exciting watching coming from 12th starting position.
You think?
Normally he is.
Matt Kenseth, 7th overall right now in the City Financial Ford for Roush Fenway Racing. Mike Bliss is the quickest. Stay with us here on Speed. NASCAR Nationwide Series practice continues. Kyle Busch comes in here with a 215-point lead over Carl Edwards. It's 257 over Brad Keselowski as we watch Scott Wimmer in the 40 car. He is 21st overall right now, completing his 3rd lap in his Chevrolet.
And Steve, you know, he had a pretty good finish. Start and finish last week in Memphis. Qualified 2nd, wound up finishing 7th. So, you know, this team right here is getting stronger. It seems like he's getting more comfortable working with these guys.
Scott has 6 starts here in Texas, a best finish of 9th. And that's back in 2006.
You know, the fastest of our go homers early in this practice session is Terry Cook in that 91 car. Right now, he is 2nd quickest, and Terry was actually in the top 10 in that first practice session earlier this morning.
181.23 miles per hour, which is a 29.79 in the garage area for Terry Cook.
And there's no question, with it getting pretty dark, close to dark later on this afternoon when these cars qualify, the speeds are going to be significantly quicker than what we're seeing. I think most of these guys are just focusing on one thing and one thing only, and that's getting their cars ready to race 300 miles tomorrow.
You think about the word comfort?
Comfort. Which you have to be at Texas Motor Speedway as fast as this place is.
Well, we've already seen from some of the onboards that when you go around this racetrack, we take a look now at Kyle Busch coming back out on the racetrack, is that you don't have a lot of time basically to relax. You got to be up on that wheel every time. You've already said it, I think, Steve. This is the fastest racetrack these guys go to, with the exception of restrictor plate cars, or tracks such as Talladega and Daytona.
Well, I think we saw it when we took a lap with Trevor Bayne earlier in that first practice. I mean, all he did was just let the throttle rest for about a half a second.
Just breathed it. Mentioned in the first practice, Kyle Busch has won the last 3 consecutive NASCAR Nationwide Series races here on this lightning fast 1.5 miles. And in the race prior to that, he finished 2nd.
Imagine that.
Yeah. In fact, he's finished 2nd here on 2 occasions. 7 top 5 finishes for Kyle Busch.
And he finished 2nd at Memphis to Brad Keselowski a couple of weeks ago.
Well, boys, let's go on board with the 1 car driven by James Buescher. We pick it up on the backstretch.
I think this will support what we were talking about. Listen to the throttle. Turned all the way off the wall down into the corner before he actually rolled out of it. Let the car just take that set, and then you can tell he's probably on a fairly long run here, or on older tires, because he was actually off the throttle longer than we saw with Trevor Bayne earlier. But the more this track heats up, the less you're going to be able to be in the throttle.
How difficult is it for a young driver like 19-year-old James Buescher to find that ragged edge, or that razor's edge, as you talk about, Larry, of knowing, you know, when to let out of that throttle and when to stay in it?
Well, I think a lot has to do, and certainly this is not one of the places you want to step across the edge, but as I tell Brandon, my son Brandon that races, if you never step across the line, you'll never know where the line's at. And that's a very fine line, because normally you step across that line, you might be unloading the backup car.
You might be doing that, but I'll give him credit here. He was following the 87 car, Joe Nemechek, and he kind of like, I'm going to watch Joe a little bit here, because Joe, again, being a veteran driver, see what his car is doing, see if I can get in a position to make the pass, but I'm not going to get up there and just dog him. You know what I'm saying? Very, very patient, showing a lot of, you know, composure for a young driver. He's figuring things out, and now he's, like I say, running his own line, figuring out how this car feels as he rolls off the bottom, hunts that white line. And I'm still waiting to see, Larry, where these cars are going to start moving up a little bit more in this practice session to widen out the groove.
I don't think it takes James Buescher long to pick up on anything, even though he's 19 years old. He has 6 previous nationwide starts. He already has a pole from Memphis last fall, and he's run 2 ARCA REMAX Series races this year. He's actually run 4. He won 2 of those 4, including Daytona back in February. It doesn't take him long to figure race cars and racetracks out.
Larry, that pole at Memphis last year made him the youngest pole winner in Nationwide Series history in 18 years, 6 months, 29 days. We'll be right back to Texas. Join us at the Speed Cantina at the Phoenix International Raceway on Saturday, November 14th as we celebrate 80s night. After the Nationwide Series race, head to the Speed Cantina and hang out with your favorite speed personalities as we get down 80s style. It says here, check Larry Mack's closet.
I'll be willing to bet Rutledge Wood will be there.
I don't have any 80s stuff.
I think I may still have some 70s stuff. I know I still have my leisure suit and my flowery shirt.
Bob Dillner.
I think it's coming back, Bob.
It is.
Oh boy, that's some sight. But down here in the garage area, as promised, Dan Deeringhoff told us Jeff Burton would be able to concentrate on the Cup Series. Well, check this out. It's up on jack stands, the number 29 here in the garage area. This car will not see the light of day during this practice session. More than 40 laps on the track in the first session among the top 10 cars. Jeff Burton, coming on the radio at the end of practice, praised the team and said, guys, we have done to go out to qualify.
Bob went to 5 seconds into practice.
Yeah, and Bob just mentioned the race 29 car. Remember, since all the Nationwide Series races are impound, pretty much before you go through for qualifying, a lot like the Cup cars would have done last week at Talladega had we got qualified.
RCR checklist on the 29 car. And what I like about it, it's got the guy's name who's responsible for it. Scott Eldridge is responsible for all of these components. And when he checks it off and the crew chief walks by, he knows who did it. So if something happens to that component, he's going to that guy. He's going to be responsible making sure it gets done right. I used to hate a checklist. Everybody could walk by and just kind of check it off, and you didn't know who did it, who was responsible, because accountability on these race cars is very important. And you can see everybody's got a name beside their responsibility, so they are accountable for those areas, from oil level and safety wire to torquing the wheels, checking the timing. Ron better make sure he gets it all done. He must be the engine tuner on this car.
And that's just page 1.
That's just page 1. But again, accountability is again the reason why these cars are put together extremely well. I mean, as good as anything, any space shuttle, any air, best they are at what they do.
That didn't take long. Track's back open for practice again. Safety crew out there picked up the debris. See Justin Allgaier in his 12 car already back out there.
Hit that throttle, the gas pedal at all.
I mean, he was all the way to the bottom of the track. This is fairly fresh tires here, I think I can pretty safely say. And I mean, he was not off the gas hardly at all.
And the other thing was he got back on the gas all the way real quick.
And I think that goes to show you this is fresh tires. He just picked up about a half a second from what he had run earlier. He just ran a 29.87.
That's a little over 180 miles an hour.
When his cars,
tab, skirts cleaned up. You ready to go, Wayno? Okay, getting buttoned up.
when these cars go to qualify, this track will have a lot more grip because it will definitely cool down. I would be willing to bet that I won't say they'll run wide open around here, but I'm not sure they'll ever be completely out of the throttle.
Mike Bliss just 59 points behind Justin Allgaier for the 5th position in points.
25.
He had his hands full right there on the exit of turn 2. He had to jump out of that throttle in a hurry.
He definitely didn't like what he felt then.
I think we'll see it right here on this last time through turn 2. You'll see it just step out with him. Just carrying so much speed on the exit of the corners, and it's, you know, it's a very tough transition straightaway getting in the corner,
29.
but it flattens out in a hurry on the exit of the corner as well.
Allgaier finished 10th here back in April, and you know the other thing to mention is we're watching a lot of these guys make one-car runs. They're not really doing a lot of side-by-side racing. When they do get side-by-side, they're not able to run necessarily where they want to be.
And they're not able to run as aggressively with that throttle either. You got to play with that throttle just a little bit tippy-toe, we like to say, through that corner. And again, I'm surprised we haven't seen these guys widen this racetrack out. They're going to need some rubber unless they're really counting on the fact that the Camping World Truck Series will race tonight and put some rubber down in that upper groove. That will give them an opportunity to get up there a little bit quicker tomorrow.
beautiful weather this weekend here in Fort Worth, Texas.
Check them tires out, guys.
We'll be back to the Texas Motor Speedway here on Speed right after this. Well, it's lunchtime here at the Texas Motor Speedway, and look at the steaks on the grill in the garage, Jeff Hammond.
I'll take mine medium.
Medium well, thank you.
Some good-looking steaks there.
Larry, did you not say you wanted yours kind of like this rare?
You know what? As hungry as I am right now, if she'll just pull one off and send it up, I'll have it and enjoy it.
Wow. Granddaddy used to say, knock the horns off of us, wipe its behind, and drag it through the fire and bring it to me.
I cooked a little more than that.
That does look good. I can't believe that actually is Kenny Wallace's truck we're looking at.
You know, it's come a long way since I think we were down in that garage area. We were lucky if we got what we'd call a slick meat sandwich.
Yeah, which is normally a slab of bologna and a couple pieces of bread or a peanut butter sandwich.
Well, if you will, we have a little miniature version of NASCAR performance, a NASCAR 101. We use a lot of terminology here. We're going to explain a clear cut here.
Clean cut.
I'm sorry, what did I say? Clear cut?
You said clear cut.
Sorry, clean cut.
That's what you do when you're kind of cutting down the trees.
Right, exactly. Clear cutting land.
Yeah.
This is a clean cut on board with Matt Kenseth just a few moments ago. Let's listen.
Just reached up at speed, at RPM, and just shut the engine off, and that will let the engine tuners on this car look at the plugs to see how the distribution from cylinder to cylinder is, and obviously it can be adjusted with carburetor jets. It can be adjusted with ignition time.
Ignition timing, but that was textbook. He did a great job right there cutting it clean, and then look how far that thing went as far as the coast down is concerned too.
And he is the fastest, which tells me possibly Matt Kenseth may turn his focus over to his Sprint Cup Series car.
I would agree. Is he sitting there telling Eddie Pardue what he wants done to the car, I think, and he'll head back over to the Cup garage.
And we'll have that practice here on Speed. Let's go back to Wendy.
You gotta love Matt Kenseth on the radio. You heard a, kind of tight, kind of loose, but it's more balanced. Matt Kenseth happy with this car and its fastest in that qualifying run in this practice session, and they are done here at the 16 car. He gives some feedback to his crew chief, as we just saw moments ago. Matt Kenseth will now head over to the Cup garage and focus on those efforts. They feel pretty good about the 16 car here at Texas this weekend.
14 drivers doing double duty. As we said, this practice is 1 hour 15 minutes. Followed closely behind by that Sprint Cup Series practice.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Batman. This is Ratman. Ratmobile.
Mouse and rat control.
That's it.
For Carl Edwards.
Right now, Carl is 6th quickest. He's run a total of 10 laps. We talked about this in our last practice show. Of course, looks like Kyle Busch very well will get this championship done here in 2009, but a real battle between Carl Edwards and Brad Keselowski. Only 42 points separating this 60 car over that 88 car with 3 races to go.
You know, and a lot of people want to say, well, Carl doesn't really care whether he finishes 2nd or 3rd. So I totally and adamantly disagree. This guy cares about every position on the racetrack, trying to perform at his best every time he gets behind the wheel of this race car, and so does Brad Keselowski. So these two guys are going to put on a pretty good show all the way to Homestead, trying to run down Kyle Busch. Even though they may not get it done, it'll be a great battle between the two of them.
Yeah, he's running the Nationwide Series. This is his 5th year to run the full series. His last 4 years, he's finished 3rd, 2nd, won the championship in 2007, and finished 2nd last year to Clint Boyer.
Wendy.
Kenseth is out of his race car. You're done here in the Nationwide garage. Gonna head over to the Cup garage. I heard you say it's kind of loose, kind of tight. Does that mean it's just overall balance is what you're happy with?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, we started off early this morning, you know, and the track is clean and all that. And with the tire roll over here, we just been using one tire. So I thought this morning it was good. We got done with practice. It wasn't as good, but the tires were out. So I don't know. We'll see what we got.
Given you any insight of what you can do out there in the Cup car right now when you get into that?
I think it's totally different. I mean, the track is changing right now. The wind's picking up and it's getting hotter out like it always does here, and you'd expect. But I don't think we can really use anything off the City Financial Ford really that'll help us in the Cup car.
All All right, thanks to Matt Kenseth, who looks like he's going to have a good qualifying effort today in that qualifying run, fastest so far in this session. Steve?
And Steve, right quick, since when he talked about the qualifying session, a little unique as far as the format for qualifying. We're so used to seeing qualifying in the Nationwide Series the day of the race. They're actually qualifying here tonight. They'll be impounded to race again. Larry talked about in our first practice session, race will be starting real early in comparison to normal, about 3 hours earlier, Larry, what we normally see.
Yeah, and another thing that's unique is I know the crew chiefs for the guys in the Cup garage that are doing double duty, they will always practice the Nationwide car and go straight to the Cup car for qualifying. The way the schedule is set here, they practice the Cup car, the track sits, there's no cars on the racetrack, and they qualify. So I'm sure a lot of those crew chiefs over there, like for instance Greg Zippodelli with his young Joey Logano, are kind of glad the schedule's like it is here.
Yeah.
Well, Matt Kenseth, just heard from him. He is the quickest, followed by Brian Vickers, Mike Bliss, and Kyle Busch. Stay with us here on Speed. When you dream, do you dream in speed? Introducing the Speed Dream Ride. You'll see new shows, old favorites, and have the chance to win an experience you never dreamed possible. The Speed Dream Ride is coming soon, presented by Castrol Edge. Find out more at speeddreamride.com.
You know, Wendy was talking to Matt Kenseth about he just didn't feel like for several reasons that he cannot really relate the Nationwide Series car to the Sprint Cup car. We documented earlier another big difference. Nationwide Series has a different left side tire than the Sprint Cup Series. Totally different construction and configuration.
We'll watch Kyle Busch in the 18 and go back to Bob Dillner.
Well, Steve, kind of a funny story from Kyle Busch in this camp. The last time they were out, all of a sudden over the radio, Kyle Busch said, "Oh boy." His crew said, I hope that's a good oh boy. And then ominously silence for like the next 2-3 laps. Kyle finally came over the radio and said, "Guys," I said, "oh boy," because I finally got up on the wheel. We are fast, fourth quick on the speed chart right now, just a little bit loose. But oh boy, here comes Kyle Busch, winner of 3 in a row in the Nationwide Series here in Texas.
Bob, I hate to say this, but oh boy, that's not good news for the competition.
Particularly not when you've won 3 in a row at this racetrack.
No. No, it's not.
But you know, I think
The first two laps is like, yeah, come on. Like, it had more, but then it lost the front too fast.
But you know, it was a year ago when he won this race where he pretty much donated, I think, his part of the purse to a fund to help Sam Ard, a guy that certainly had every record almost that's out there in the Nationwide Series, who's been fighting all-timers for several years.
In fact, Kyle has broken many of Sam's records this year for number of races led, laps led. Those records belong to Sam Ard.
Look, one thing right quick, if you were listening to that radio transmission, car was good early on in the run, but then he said it started giving it back up. So he's still not totally happy with that 18 car. And that's a good thing, I think, for the competition. They still got some work to do on it, but the fact that they know they need to work on it, I believe that they'll eventually figure it out, and it'll be bad news for everybody else involved.
Mike Lynette in the 15 car out of Iowa. He is 22nd overall.
Michael comes in here 10th in the points. Actually had a pretty decent run in the spring race here, finished 11th. Still looking for his first top 5 finish of 2009.
Best finishing rookie in 4 of the last 9 races. Brad Keselowski will join us on trackside later tonight.
A clean shaven Brad Keselowski. I still say the captain is behind that nice clean shaven face. One way or the other.
That's right, directly or indirectly. Brad said it was his idea first.
But Brad has got a lot going on. You know, we know starting here at Texas, he's going to be in that 12 car for Penske in the Cup side of things for the final 3 races. The car that he will drive full-time in 2010. And it's already been announced that he's going to run the full Nationwide Series for a 22 Penske car next year. So he'll be running both series full-time.
And he'll have Discount Tire as a sponsor on that Nationwide car for the majority of the season.
And on Wednesday, we found out that we're closer to perhaps seeing Danica Mania start here in NASCAR. Reports coming out that she's going to be driving for Dale Earnhardt Jr. next year in a limited nationwide series schedule. Maybe
18 to 19 races. I know ESPN was reporting that earlier in the week. And what was said is she may actually run the ARCA race at Daytona, which would give her approval to run the nationwide series race there. But if not, for sure, possibly a debut at the Auto Club Speedway, the second race of the season. So you figure 18, 19 nationwide series races, maybe an ARCA race or two, plus her IRL schedule. She's going to be one busy little lady. Life's about to change for Danica Patrick.
Report says that she'll sign a 3-year contract with Michael Andretti to run the full seasons there.
Like you said, she's going to be busy, but hey, if she really wants to come over here, come on, we're ready for you.
Danica Mania. 30 minutes left in this second and final NASCAR Nationwide Series practice. Teams qualify later today here in Texas. Carl Edwards in the 60 car, 7th overall right now. He's completed 13 laps in his mouse and rack control Ford.
I could use some of that stuff for the Hollywood Hotel next year.
Right.
I mean, I got a couple of rats and mouses down there.
That's an understatement.
Rodents. You got some rodents.
Are you talking about Chris Myers and Darrell Walker?
As I said, that's an understatement.
The leader of our rat pack is Bob Dillner.
That's right. Help us out, Bob.
Oh, well, Carl Edwards was part of the Brat Pack a couple years ago when he came into the NASCAR circuit. But remember, guys, he talked about in the first session that he was having trouble over that bump in turn number 1. Well, they tried to fix that and did. Now no trouble in 1 and 2. His trouble is in 3 and 4. You can see him doing that, as Hollywood would call the dee-die-do right there. Just kind of chattering the right front, getting into the corner, real loose in the middle, and then just further loose up on off. So that's what Carl Edwards is really battling right now in this practice session. He's not really happy with the race car, and it's something they got to work on, as you can see, guys.
Yeah, they're headed back down through here. And Bob, when you're in Texas, it's not a dee-die-do, it's a do-si-do.
As long as it's not a hospital hop.
That's exactly right.
Take another look.
At
yes,
this
sir.
Right here.
Right on the bottom of that white line, he's turning the wheel, turning the wheel. Also, you see the back end hit that bump and kind of kick out on him. He had to work it to get control of the car.
Yeah, normally what'll happen at any bump at any racetrack, if your car's a little bit loose and you go across the bump, it'll just get looser. If you're chattering the front tires and they're not turning, you go across it, it just turns less.
Casey Kane won here in April of 2005. He was running as a teammate this weekend to Jason Leffler. Their cars look nearly identical.
I'm glad you said that, because when I first looked, I said, you said Casey Kane. That's the, oh yeah, it is Casey Kane. It's the 10.
Yeah, Brian Racing actually fielding 3 cars here. Casey Kane, Jason Leffler, and Brian Vickers.
Take a look at the list of guys doing double dip duty here.
And there's a triple dip there as well. Kyle Busch, he'll be running the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race tonight.
And wouldn't he be running like a dirt late model somewhere around here? I'm sure he could find something.
If there was one going on and he could make it, I would say with as much time as he'll have tomorrow afternoon, as early as this Nationwide Series race starts, very possibly might.
He's a kind of driver that if there is a gap between practice sessions and he can run somewhere and race, he can run somewhere and race and come right back.
Well, he might have time to watch Alabama LSU. A little nervous about that, Larry Mack?
I am a little nervous about that ball game. I am nervous because LSU, they've been playing some mighty good football. I think our boys from Tuscaloosa needed that off weekend because, in my book, they played Tennessee way too close a couple of weeks ago.
Their offense needs to get on track, your Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do, because they fell to number 3, which, like Eli Gold and I were talking the other night, falling to number 3 with 4 games to go means absolutely nothing. Because normally USC can lose 6 games and still be rated number 1. It's all about the politics.
Oh, LSU!
That's just wrong. That is wrong.
Cajun
Way to go,
country.
Teddy.
You're in
Way
Cajun.
to go,
Hook 'em horns.
Yeah.
Now, NASCAR on Speed is always on with NASCAR on Speed Broadband, a free super site for the hardcore fans. Get the best of NASCAR on Speed plus exclusive videos you can't get anywhere else. Log on now to the video section of speedtv.com or NASCAR.com. More love for Larry Mack's Crimson Tide.
Like it's done up like an American flag. That is just totally wrong right there. I bet you they will not be waving those flags on Sunday, as they will be licking their wounds.
You know what? You know what's amazing right there is that he gets so torqued up about somebody else being a fan like he is. If it hadn't been an Alabama flag like that, he's been all over it. That right there is the most patriotic thing he's ever seen.
He's ever seen. Old Glory, he'd call it, right?
Exactly.
He'd say Old Glory never looked so good.
Yeah.
Crimson, red, white, and blue.
I believe it.
Yeah, except when it gets confused between Auburn.
That's right.
Trevor Bayne in that 99 car. Ran quite a number of laps in the very first practice session earlier.
Shy one, Kenny Wallace in that 28 car.
I wonder if he saved us a steak to eat them all.
Was that his grill?
Yeah, that's what I say. It was his grill.
Wow.
He's eating high on the hog down there.
Kenny is 34th quickest. Kenny and I talk a lot about this Nationwide Series program, and it seems like the places where you really need a lot of engine, a lot of horsepower, they tend to just struggle a little bit. You go back to Memphis, which is more of a Hamlin racetrack, had a great qualifying run, qualified 5th, ended up finishing 13th late in the race.
And 13th in points is where he comes to the Texas Motor Speedway with 3 races remaining. Bob has an update on Kevin Harvick in that 33 car.
Well, here's what's pretty funny. At the beginning of this practice session, Kevin Harvick thought maybe he'd be one and done. Well, he's turned more laps than anybody else, 33 on record in this practice session. And really, guys, they've been just working with this one particular set of tires. And they've been doing camber sweeps and shock changes just to see what it would do to the car around the corner. So Kevin Harvick's still fairly happy with this race car. They've been just doing a little R&D work during this practice session.
Yeah, 34 laps. And you know, with this much practice, as long as you don't venture too far away from your basics, probably not a bad time to do a little A-B-ing and B-C-ing.
No, I think it's a great time because of the fact that, you know, again, you pointed it out, race is going to start about this time on Saturday, so it's a great time to kind of figure out what the track's going to be exactly like. Got quite a bit of rubber on the track now, so great opportunity for drivers to get familiar with it and the crew chiefs to tweak it. Get it right, guys. If we look at the 85 right there, Casey Atwood, still 38th quickest. He needs to find a little speed if he can. He's in jeopardy not making this field if he can't make a good qualifying run.
19-year-old James Buescher in the 1 car. We're on board with him. He is 17th quickest. Wendy has more.
Thanks, Steve. They've been working on their race runs this practice session for the most part, but throughout these changes, they're working on the car. They've gave up too much front grip, according to James Buescher. Now, it's harder to keep on the bottom of the racetrack for James, and that's really what they've been fine-tuning. They've made a shock adjustment, and he did not feel comfortable with it, so now they went back to their original adjustments they had 2 runs ago. Still needed a little bit of help before they make this qualifying run before this practice session ends, but they've been working hard to fine-tune this car for James.
And this is pretty much a home game for James. He's from nearby Katy, Texas, and he has won races in almost every part of this facility here at Texas Motor Speedway, except for the 1.5 miles. He's won on the dirt track. They got an infield road course. He's won races there, and would sure love to add this 1.5 mile quad oval to his win list here at Texas Motor Speedway.
You're pretty much hung up on those football tournaments right now, aren't you?
Home game.
Yeah, it's that time of year. Our Panthers don't have a home game this weekend.
No, at New Orleans.
Oh, boy. I feel a little better about my Crimson Tide than I do my Panthers.
But at least they won last weekend against the Cardinals.
There's Tuff Hedeman in the garage, or maybe Larry Mahan. Johnny Gay.
Any number one of them Cowboys, you never know.
There's some bad men.
They are. Trevor Brazil, whatever. PBR is going on in Vegas right now.
It is?
Yep. Sure is.
Is that Pabst Blue Ribbon?
No, it's something you wouldn't understand. It's called professional bull riders. But then again, you might, because you're a professional bull. I didn't say that.
We just saw the Kevin Harvick group putting fuel in that 33 car. Looks like they may make them a little practice qualifying run here. Jason Keller in the 27 car, 16th quickest. He's run a total of 23 laps.
Guys, we're closing in on the 57-minute mark of this practice. So not a lot of time to accomplish your agendas if you haven't already.
So you better be close because you're running out of time if you're not. And Larry, I didn't say that. Teletitis told me.
There's no question. That man can stir the pot better than anybody in all of NASCAR. He won't return a call, Wendy, but he'll stir the pot.
Oh, I know Teddy can stir the pot up, but let's talk about stirring it up on the racetrack. It's Justin Allgaier getting the Most Improved award today in the Nationwide Garage. I think he hadn't broken that top 10 in the race runs that he's been doing until just now at the end of this practice. He felt uneasy most of the first practice and the majority of this second practice. It was really loose for some reason. We watched the video earlier in this practice, how crazy it got for him. Now they've made some adjustments. He said it has really improved in 1 and 2. It's helped him turn a lot. 3 and 4 was still a little bit loose for Justin Allgaier, but a lot more pleased with his race car towards the end of this practice. They have tuned on it quite some time here in the Nationwide Garage. And finally, good feedback from Justin Allgaier.
And I would feel pretty good. I don't know about loose, but I would feel pretty good right now if I was on really old tires and way down on fuel if my car was a little on the free side, because it's going to gain grip in qualifying when they go out tonight. And so it's going to tighten up, and I just think this racetrack's only going to get tighter and tighter as well.
Yeah, we take a look here at Joey Logano. He's run 19 laps in this practice session. I think, Larry, you touched on it earlier. Kevin Harvick, he leads this group with 34 laps on the racetrack, but a lot of guys have run in excess of 25 laps or more trying to fine-tune their race cars. Bob, what's going on with you when you're in the garage?
Well, Joey Logano, I told you earlier on in this practice session that they were lost in the first session, and they really haven't gotten a whole heck of a lot better. Joey Logano really still trying to tune in on this race car and give his crew some good advice of what to do. In fact, it spent more time up on the jack stands here in the garage area because they've gone over every nut and bolt on this car to figure out what's been wrong. But so far, Joey Logano still not exactly happy with the instability of this car getting in the corner.
I tell you, one thing I do like is I like the draw, the qualifying draw of that car. Joey Logano is actually going to go out 27th. No question, the later the draw, the time of day they're going to be qualifying, the better off you're going to be.
And Nationwide Series qualifying here on Speed 5:30 local, 6:30 Eastern. Josh Wise in the 58 car. Just want to remind you, we have 46 teams here. 41 have been on the track in this practice.
Yeah, Josh was a little borderline in the first practice session. All 46 cars did practice in that session. Right now, Josh is 22nd quickest, so he's in pretty good shape, I think.
Kevin Conway in the 26 car. 35th overall in his Chevrolet.
This is a car that's locked into the show in the top 30 in owner points. It's the top 30, as Jeff pointed out earlier, versus 35 in Sprint Cup.
I watched the infomercial of his product the other night. I did not place an order. Just saying.
Hammond has no comeback.
As Darrell Walter once told me, I'm not putting my dog in that fight.
Just saying.
If Darrell had watched it, I bet he would have placed it.
Something tells me he's got it TiVo'd.
Just past the 1 hour mark, so less than 15 minutes remaining. Matt Kenseth. Well, I was just about to say Matt Kenseth the fastest, and as I did, his teammate Carl Edwards jumped up to the top of the list. Carl Edwards in the 60 car, 184.20 miles per hour, 29.31. Yes, sir.
Pretty impressive run right there this time of day. Under conditions like it is right now, you got to believe he'd be a whole lot faster come later on this evening.
No question. Yeah, he beat Matt Kenseth's time by 2 tenths.
Checklist, make sure everything's done. And we'll see you in a little bit, Carl.
So that pretty much,
Definitely.
Mike
Real
Kelly.
good work, guys. Real good work today. I appreciate it.
What they did is the last run is they gave him a feel for probably new tires full of fuel, a lot like what he'll feel when he goes to qualify a little bit later on. So that puts 3 Roush Fenway cars at the top of the charts with 3 Toyotas right behind.
And Steve, I don't think we sometimes talk about this enough. Having a good, successful practice over here in the Nationwide Series you can't transfer any kind of information, but you can carry a good feeling back there. Feeling confident that you've been able to make this car better. Now maybe believing I can go over here and do the same thing with your Cup car. It's just a little bit of, I think, a little bit boost in your self-confidence when you leave here knowing you're the fastest guy, at least in this series.
And what has to be a lot of confidence is the crew chief swap and some team members swap. I know we've only had 2 practice sessions, but Mike Kelly and some of his guys moving from the 6 car over to this 60 car, and Dan Stillman and some of his guys moving over to the 6 car with David Reagan.
Hammond, what is that? What have you brought to Texas?
That's my Black Pearl, and it should have been in Talladega last week, not here in Texas this week. I was missing my ship. Remember I asked you what my ship was?
Is Rutledge on there? Is Rutledge on there?
Yeah. But one other thing right quick, when you talk about confidence, all that swapping around, 3 Roush Fenway cars at the top of the list. All is well in the Roush camp.
Yeah, the Sprint Cup Series boys are lined up. Last week's winner, Jamie McMurray's going to go out first. A.J. Allmendinger, Marcus Ambrose, Mark Martin, they're all lined up. We'll have that for you here on Speed.
You know, I think it's been said over and over. Of course, if you look at this 44 car, not only does it have the old Richard Petty paint scheme, you notice the big Ford oval on the hood. They're going to run a Ford the final 3 races. But back to Jamie McMurray, that win had to mean so much across the board. It was the first win for Roush Fenway since late February when Matt Kenseth won the first 2 races of the season. And the 26 car, they were looking for their first top 5 finish of the year, and they had only led 1 lap all year long. They lead the most laps at Talladega and get their first top 5, which ended up being a win.
He was on NASCAR Race Hub on Wednesday, was still pretty pumped up about it. I asked him about 2010. He said, don't know, Steve. I got some stuff working, but I honestly I don't know what to tell you.
Last week didn't hurt him. Tell you that right now. Nope. If somebody was thinking about, who do I want, Jamie McMurray or I want
Driver X?
Exactly right. All of a sudden, Jamie McMurray kind of got put his name at the top of the list.
But that has to be the case for Jamie, Donnie Wingo, that entire race team, because we know that Roush Fenway, they have to be shaved down per the NASCAR rules to 4 race teams by 2010.
Now, we'll say this much. Donnie Wingo and I had a conversation this morning. He will be back at Roush Fenway. A lot of rumors right now that really look like he will wind up being the new crew chief on the 6 car next year for David Reagan.
Yeah, I think he knew all along that he was not going to be released from Roush Fenway. He just didn't really know what his capacity was going to be over there.
Jeremy Clements from Spartanburg, South Carolina. The 0 car, Jeremy is 38th overall of the 41 drivers who have been on the racetrack in the practice, as you watch Brendan Gaughan, who's 19th.
Brenny.
Sorry.
As they like to call him within his family. His sister and his mother. Grandmother call him.
And his best friend, Jeff.
I have a hard time calling him Brenny. I really do.
Brendan comes in here 9th in the points, has a pole. Back at Bristol in the spring, 3 top 5s and 8 top 10s. Here's Bobby Hillen Jr., who right now is 39th quickest of the 41 cars that's practice. But Bobby, this car's in the top 30 in owner points, so he's locked in.
Here's some more useless information. Bobby Hillen Jr. from Midland, Texas. The television show Friday Night Lights, which came from a book and a movie of the same name, followed a football team in Midland, Texas. How about that?
It's a good show.
Yeah.
Good show.
Bobby, a successful businessman back here in Texas. And again, bears repeating, 334 Cup Series starts for Bobby Hillen with a win at Talladega back in 1986.
So, Larry, have you read the book?
I have not read the book. I've watched the TV show, but I have not read the book.
I read the book. High school football, big business here in Texas.
It is that. Yep. They are pretty serious about it. Very serious. Kenny Wallace, our little buddy, 36 quickest in this 28 car. He's run a total of 14 laps. So we only have about 7 minutes left in this practice session.
Wendy.
Well, Kenny, who is our resident funny man on Sunday mornings, is very serious when he gets into the race car, and he said he needs a little help on exit with his Nationwide car. It's decent on the entry. He was talking about the characteristics of this racetrack, and it has a real flat entry, but he said that's not what his car feels like it's doing. He feels like he knows what it should be doing, he just can't get it to go that way. So they are working on his car still. He needs the left front to stay down on that racetrack. That's been the biggest thing Kenny Wallace is fighting in this Nationwide practice session.
And you know, I don't know if we emphasize that enough. You know, because the two right side tires, everywhere we go on an oval track, they're the ones that are loaded. You know, the right front, a tremendous amount of load getting in the corner. The right rear takes a lot of the load on the exit. The tire that you really need to focus on to get into the racetrack is that left front. If you can get that left front digging in the track, you pretty much can wrap everything else around it.
Kenny heads to the garage, still looking for speed, just 36th overall. 16 laps for Kenny. Roush Fenway cars, 1, 2, 3. Closing minutes of Nationwide Series practice here on Speed from Texas. Our marathon coverage continues here at the Texas Motor Speedway, and we are so glad that you're along for the ride because we're having a great time talking about racing, football, and what else, Larry Mack?
Anything else that might come along.
Ships, pirate ships.
Exactly right. We're going to cover everything.
If it moves, we'll talk about it.
We're full
And if it doesn't move, we'll talk about it.
What is the old meeting line used to be if it turns left?
We're going to do a practice session. Cars turn left, we talk about it. If one happens to turn right, we'll show replays and talk about it a lot.
Which fortunately, it has not happened here today so far.
It has not. It's been incident-free.
Had that one little caution for just some debris. And that was about it. Justin Allgaier in the 12 car run a total of 25 laps. He is 9th quickest.
Which is a relief to everybody in the garage because if you do hit something here, you hit it hard.
It leaves a mark.
It does.
Normally, you will not repair a car that you hit with here. You'll be going to the backup situation. Talked about this earlier. Of course, Justin Allgaier sat on the pole at Memphis a couple weeks ago. 2009, 32 races in the Nationwide Series, 19 different pole winners.
Just a couple minutes remaining.
I think this may be a practice qualifying run on Brendan Gaughan, a 62 car. Saw him leaving pit road, swerving back and forth. He's actually run a total of 37 laps in this practice session.
Mike Bliss has run 38. Mike Lynette 36.
If it was Larry, he didn't like it.
No, he didn't.
Still free. It's got that pounded over on the right front feeling that I'm just going to have to live with. It's tough to get it out of turn 2. And I get real loose right in the center of 3 and 4. Just about every lap I get in okay.
It sounds like to me, the first thing he's feeling is it kind of falls over on that right front, gets down. I think that just gives a driver an uncomfortable feeling. It just doesn't feel like it's nice and propped up level.
You want it to where the car is working off the right front, but you don't want it pivoting around the right front. If it's not doing what you want it to, all of a sudden the right rear and the left side are not working, and if that right front, the car just kind of is wanting to spin around it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's not a good way to have the car set up.
Mike Bliss in this one car, he just jumped up to 5th quickest, right behind another Toyota, Trevor Bain, and as Steve mentioned just a second ago, the 3 Roush Fenway Fords, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And I think practice for the Nationwide Series at Texas Motor Speedway has come to a close.
Red and black flags displayed.
Don't like it, you got to live with it.
But as you guys mentioned earlier, very different schedule here. These guys qualify later on this afternoon or early evening and then race about midday tomorrow.
Jeff mentioned those Roush Fenway cars, 1, 2, 3, then 4 straight Toyotas.
I like Trevor Bain. How about him up there in the 4th fastest in that Toyota for Michael Walker Racing? Pretty impressive for that young man.
We're going to step aside for just a little bit. John Roberts going to handle the business down at the speed stage. Don't forget, coming up, Sprint Cup Series practice here at the Texas Motor Speedway.
I pretty much know what JR is saying. I don't know what happened. I woke up in a good mood.
I don't know what happened.
and then you saw that LSU flag.
I'm hungry, JR.